welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Welcome to Big Blend Radio's bi-monthly park travel radio party with Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith. We're the mother-daughter travel team. We're the crazy travel team and publishers of two digital interactive publications. We've got Parks and Travel Magazine. You can check it out at nationalparktraveling.com. Let me get that straight. And blendradioandtv.com will take you to Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. Both of them cover travel and park traveling. And we're super excited. Today we have three special park travelers and photographers joining us. They're all incredible. I've been following them on Instagram. Some of them we know in person. Some have been on the show before. And once you meet them, you're going to want to follow them on all their social media outlets and get connected with them and follow their travels. At the end of the show, we will also air Steve Schenikert's National Park Hollywood History segment and play some park-inspired music from singer-songwriter Wally Lawder, based here in Tucson, where we are here in Big Blend land. Now, today's party is sponsored by the National Parks Arts Foundation, who creates unique artist-in-residence programs within national park units. So if you're an artist, writer, poet, photographer, filmmaker, you name it, this is your opportunity to submit to actually live in a park for a month and create. And so just go to National Parks Arts Foundation. But important, let's meet our guests. Are you ready, Nancy?
I want to go sit in a park for a month.
I know, and I think some of our guests do that. And on a basis, we've got Otis-Harville is our first guest. He's an award-winning landscape photographer and fine art printmaker. He's a national park traveler and author of the new ebook that is super beautiful. All of you have got to check this out. The Great Smoky Mountains, A Peek Inside. And Otis, welcome back to the show. This is your second time. How are you?
Great. And I thank you for having me back.
Hey, I excited, and your new book is super beautiful. Nancy and I have been looking at it, and we wanted to go to the Smoky Mountains, and we have this opportunity this fall that we may actually make it there. And then looking at your book, we're like, dude, like, how could we not? Yes. Now I think we're like over the edge of having to go there. It is beautiful.
So cool.
It's beautiful. Tell us a little bit about the book and what inspired you to do this as a photographer and say, hey, I'm going to do an ebook.
Well, that's a good question because, I've been going to Smokies for quite a few years, and I always tend to put the Smokies in at least on a fall or a spring trip every year. And so over the years, I just accumulated so many compositions and so many different images and just different looks at different times of the year. So I thought, well, let's put something on the website that I've seen other people do, just a small ebook, and since I'm not into workshops and teaching in that aspect, I decided just to come up with something that give people a small peek at some of the different things that they could see and experience in the Smokies. So I put it together. 19 pages, I think 17 of them have images and fun facts and inspirational quotes.
The quotes are awesome, and I love the maps in the background. Like, it's just got this.
Awesome.
Then Nancy and I have a thing about maps, and it's just that whole vibe of it. It's like makes you want to explore.
It's like, look at all the places we could go.
I know, and now, like when you were on our show the last time, you had to give your website, and you get to do it again. Tell everybody your website so they know where to follow you.
Website, www.lightscapes.com. That's spelled LIGHTSCAP3S. Now that's Lightscapes is a play off of the term landscapes. So it's just Lightscapes, and then scapes is spelled with a 3.
See? He's cool.
That's why you get
and
to
you
do
got
it
to follow.
instead of
I know,
us.
but it's cool because I love that about you, because even this book has that play on words, and I think there's this thing about being able to put the right words with the images that is just, it's painstaking. Like, it really is.
It can be.
Yeah, it can be. And then I go like, where's my wine? But that doesn't really help you. You have to be clear and get it right. And you did that really beautifully in this book. And it just, there's quotes from people. Even Yoko Ono's in there. I'm like, how did she sneak in? But she did. And it's interesting to me when you look at quotes over national parks in our lands, how many people have loved our parks and lands, not just in our country, but around the world, how they're a big part of our life. Otis, how did
Absolutely.
you get started into photography and specifically becoming a landscape photographer? What was it that for you that said, I'm going to be a landscape photographer?
Wow, that's a tricky question. Well, I mean, it was several things. I actually Smoky Mountains was my first national park. I was just out of high school. I mean, it was I was young, but at that point it was a pure nature thing, and I had no ambition to try photography or anything like that. What really compelled it is that because I love the outdoors and I love just being in parks, national parks. I was always what they call a computer wizard, and always had, the computer always came easy to me. So as the photography field grew in technology, I saw it approaching my skill set, if you will. So as digital got more improved, the higher end cameras came about. I knew, okay, what I do and what I know on the computer side will map out artistically well with a digital camera. So then that's where I began to use the digital camera as basically my tool to capture the light I use to bend on my computer.
Oh, and you do bend the light on your photos. You do.
And it's such a new frontier. And as an old person,
you're not old. Don't ever say that.
But having to import film into Kenya and then take pictures with an old camera and then take it to someone to develop it and then go, that's not what I shot.
Yeah.
And
that's funny. That's funny because before, usually when I'm setting in a scene for hours or so many hours or days, I already see. When I see the image come to me, I can see and visually feel what I want this scene to be like when I'm finished with it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's interesting because Nancy's time in Africa, going through what your camera's going to take and what was there, and there's the color change and Photoshop at that point wasn't happening. We're talking in the 70s, man, when she photographed Jomo Kenyatta's funeral. I'm not aging you, Nancy. Just saying, this thing's got to go out the window.
Confiscated because of it.
I know. I want to bring a friend on the show who has taken us around Yosemite National Park, cooked burritos for us, had Bloody Marys with us, and also
still likes us.
Knows about photography and still likes us. He still likes us, I think. Has been on our shows before and also knows about traveling to Africa, and that is John DeGrazio. He's the founder of yexplore, and that's Y, the letter Y, explore.com, everybody. You guys all have your own names for these things, He offers guided hikes, tours, adventures throughout Yosemite National Park. He's also the host of Yosemite Can of Peaches radio show, which I want to talk to him about the title because I remember him telling me, take pizza to the top of Half Dome if you want. It could be a burrito. It could be whatever you want. So I know food is a big part. Beyond hikes, he's taken people up Half Dome, Summit Adventures, multi-day backpacking trips. Basically, he has the dream job, okay? But it's not that easy to get everybody to understand. Hey, we're going to go trekking across the wilderness of Yosemite. But he's also taking people to Mount Kilimanjaro and to Nepal. He also does photography classes in Yosemite with local professional photographers. He does a lot, and he's a cool dude. John DeGrazio, how are you?
Wow, that was just an amazing.
That was a badass intro. I feel like I should have
You should have a Hollywood star.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm a little starstruck right now. I'm doing well, thank you. I just returned from a session in Yosemite National Park just to be on this interview. So thanks for having me, Lisa and Nancy.
Thank you for leaving the park for us. Honestly, I know how that is. It's damn, I have to leave right now. Sunset's coming down. That's just rude. You are so, when we went with you, all these little hot spots. And I think that's one of these amazing treasures that you go in there all the time. Nancy and I go into Saguaro Park here in Tucson all the time. And other parks, state parks. To us, a park is a park.
Right.
It's something we've learned on our travels, our quest to go to all 418 national parks. And until we get to Sandra, who's been to she's way outdone all of us on that. Maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong. But there's a thing about you can go to the same park and see something different every time. And now starting to realize ecosystems and birds in a certain nesting area, deer. Is that for you with Yosemite? Do you feel that way? Do you ever get bored of Yosemite? How could you?
Obviously, I never get bored. And for me, I think you mentioned it right there. Just the fact that every experience is different. Every lighting situation is different. Yesterday, we were leading a group of budding young photographers who traveled all the way from New York State. And part of what I was telling them is put your passion into your work. So for me, it's never, ever a dull moment. And when I'm out there, every situation is different. And as long as you're true to yourself, and when you're making a photograph, it's really important to tell a story and tell the emotional side. And there's no better place than to connect with your emotions than in one of our beautiful national parks. I just happen to be fortunate enough to be in Yosemite National Park.
And they're all beautiful, and I agree with you. And you just came back from Tanzania. You came back from the Serengeti National Park. Nancy and I, lived near there in Kenya. And
but we weren't allowed to cross that border.
Well, we did.
We did, but we weren't allowed to.
But it is watching that and watching your photos as you were able to post them, and the delight you had. It reminds me of people here in Yosemite too. It just seems it's so different, but isn't it the same joy at the end of the day? Even though Africa's pretty damn crazy with wildlife. It's crazy cool, isn't it?
Oh, so awesome.
It's amazing. And in Yosemite, Yosemite's not really known as a wildlife park.
Right.
So I trained with landscapes, and then changing over to photographing the wildlife, I found myself really interested in photographing the birds. We got to capture some images of marabou storks and some gray herons, and just so the gray crowned crane. There's just so many beautiful birds in Africa. But as you mentioned, it just took our breath away. Every time we turned, we would come across a pride of lions or an elephant with her family, and it was just so amazing. Every single moment, it was just a joy to be there. And going into the Serengeti, we slept on the floor of the Serengeti in our tents, and found out the next morning a lion had come through with her 2 cubs. And then we went into the Ngorongoro crater, where we were able to see a rhinoceros, a black rhinoceros. And every single minute of that adventure was incredible. And we topped it off by summiting Mount Kilimanjaro.
That's amazing to me. When you say that you slept on the floor of the Serengeti, when you think about that, and that to me, there's nothing. We need that connection. I think there's something that aligns our spine and our body when we actually walk barefoot or lay down in the dirt. I know that sounds crazy. We all want our cozy pillows and our cozy beds, but there's something about dirt. And I'm one of those people, like the Native Americans, I'll eat the damn dirt because there's something good about it. Not the Monsanto lands of, monocrops, but sorry, I had said that. I can't help it. But the reality is, like, when you get out into nature and your body aligns with it, I think, when you get into places where there's Yosemite, the Smoky Mountains. And on that, I want to bring our next guest on, Sandra-Ramos. She is based out of Austin, Texas, one of the best places for music. And it's on the El Camino Real Trail that you and I are going to do. De los Tejas, if I say it right. We're going to be doing that this fall. She's a photographer, a recovering politico, which I'm going to say, like our national park system, that's a place you go to recover from politics, but then you get involved in politics when you're there to save them. She's a road tripper like us. She's a history geek and also a national parks site lover. am I right, National Park Patch Lady, that it is 159 sites that you've been to now?
I have now been to 159 sites, yes.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. It is, but it's a great undertaking, and I think it's going to be hard for me to run out of places to go, really. But
how long do you stay at each place?
It depends, really. So, the larger national parks, what we think of the Big 59, or now I guess the Big 60, as it were, with Gateway Arch becoming a national park. Those types of parks I like to spend, a minimum of 5 days and try to stay as long as I can. But, we've got national historical sites, national battlefields where, I really try to understand the story, understand the history. And one of the things I love about our national parks is that it shows us not only what's created, but it shows our devastation. It shows the history of our people, of our land, of all different aspects. And, it's always intriguing. So the National Historical Sites, I'll stay for at least a day, give it a full day.
I think it's important that you do the history part of it, because that's one of the most, from us in our travels, we went on a 3-year journey, and John knows that that's how we met John. And we kept going in circles because we couldn't get out of a park. We couldn't get out of a community. We just got into it, and the way we do our things, we're a little different with publishing things and magazines and whatever. And doing radio shows while you're trying to be on the road, and some parks don't have internet. And you're like, dude, seriously? And then you're staying in a haunted hotel that the ghost says, you're not airing your show today, but I'm going to go boo. But it took us a little longer. But what we learned on the road was that a lot of people didn't understand that we have a majority of our national park system is history. 2/3 of it is history. And I love your story, because your story, you're in Austin, which, number one, I can't wait to go spend time there. You're on this historic trail, which is another thing that people don't seem to realize about parks. But part of your start from reading your website, which is nationalparkpatchlady.com. She collects patches, and she's cool. I just want to see you totally tattooed with this, but it's just got a strand of pink hair that Nancy's wanted pink hair for years. Now she's I really want it now.
Yeah. But the pink hair came when I retired from my political job. So when
but how do you feel now? You're still in politics now.
The pink thing is, for me, it's just don't mess with me, pink.
Yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want, right?
But the pink hair thing is a trend now, isn't it?
Well, it is, depending on how you wear it. I've had mine for about 6 years now. Mine came purely out of when I retired from being a political consultant after 20 years. I just swore I would never step foot in another congressional office again, and figured that was the best way to do it. So it's sort of a rebellion for me. Even
I would put a big finger in my hair.
They probably wouldn't They probably wouldn't let you because you had the pink hair.
Yeah, it's not red or blue.
Regardless, of any level of politics you're in, there's a level of conservatism to it, and I always ended up in trouble. I always had a different point of view, and so when I left politics, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this again, because it was really soul sucking, which is why I turned to national parks, because they're the exact opposite of soul sucking. They are so soul giving and life giving, and just this an amazement that I never get tired of. And so,
but Gettysburg was the start. The Gettysburg.
Gettysburg is where it started for me. Yes, it was a funny story. We were living in Washington D.C. and my partner had gotten a job in D.C. and so I moved with him from Austin, and I was just trying to get out of politics, which is probably the stupidest thing I could have ever done, is move to D.C. when you're trying to get out of politics. And a friend of mine who knew said, hey, come go with us to Gettysburg. And I'm like, who wants to go to a battlefield? And I was really down on the whole situation, but I went because I didn't want to stay at home. So I went and absolutely fell in love. And I'm like, well, let's go to Antietam. And then I just started researching every national historical site and every national park. And found that a lot of people didn't know that part of our country. They didn't know we had these national park sites, right? They knew Yellowstone, they knew Yosemite, they knew the Grand Canyon, but they didn't know about Maggie L. Walker in Richmond, Virginia, and they didn't know about, you know, Castillo de San Marcos in St. Augustine, Florida. And so for me, my passion is to photograph all of these national parks in a way that's accessible for people, that they understand the history and give them a sense of why this is important for us to save and protect.
Yeah, I love that because the history is so crucial. And I know we've talked about Yosemite and a little bit of the Smoky Mountains with you, Otis, too. And I want to go back to these three things. Gettysburg is interesting. We've done so many interviews with artists in residence in Gettysburg, and the stories that come out of there are incredible. And especially someone who's a veteran who stayed there, but the nature, like do you find, I mean, you posted something about Stonewall the other day, and I remember doing shows about we need Stonewall to happen, you know, in New York. This is important. This is a part of our history, right? And you posted about that. I was like, yay, because it's telling the story of our people, you know, just as much as so many of our historic sites do. However, there's this juxtaposition, and I'm going to come back to both of you, John and Otis, because your natural parks have history in them. So I want to come back to that. But you going to Gettysburg, there's a nature thing there too. There's a nature trip there.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize that. They just, you know, when I walked into Gettysburg the first time, I was like, oh, I'm going to hear about dead people, you know, and I really was down on it. But when we spent, you know, a good part of a day and a half there, and I still don't feel that I got everything that I needed out of Gettysburg, because it was amazingly beautiful, and I wanted to just spend time in that piece, and I wanted to learn the stories, and I wanted to engage with it. And so it's definitely on the list to go back to. Since it was my first, I think that I can look at it with fresher eyes now that I've been to a lot of other historical sites. But yeah, when I tell people that Gettysburg was my first that got me hooked, you know, I always get a strange look.
You know, it takes time to absorb. Everybody's different on different. It really has to do with your upbringing, where you were, and how you are, and who you are now, which changes over your lifetime. And so it takes time. Like I know from taking Lisa to parks in South Africa, that certain parks she's like, oh, cool, because we're like into animals and nature. But a historical park where people died on a battlefield, it took time for
a little bit.
No, it took time for both of us.
Stand at Ishlawanda Rock. You stand there, you know,
and it took time.
Where the Zulus died, and Shaka Zulu, where he was there, and then you learn about battle maneuvers, and you think about how people really did that.
But it wouldn't mean anything as much to you if you didn't know Zulu people. Now you have friends who were Zulu, and it meant way more than if you just flew in, went there, and didn't know any Zulus.
Well, you know, I come from it from a different perspective in the sense that, you know, I was born in Long Island, New York, and I grew up in New Orleans. And so, so my friends would all approach, you know, talking about Gettysburg, you know, so we're talking about the Civil War. My friends from the North would all approach it one way, and going to school in the South, you know, you get a different perspective, right? And so it depends on if you call it Manassas or Bull Run. And so, you know, I think when I went into Gettysburg, I had both of those perspectives carried with me, and I really viewed it in a unique way. I was able to sort of experience it from both sides, where a lot of visitors who go to Gettysburg have an opinion, right? You say, okay, I would have been Union, or I would have been Confederate, and this is where it is. Where I walked into it, where this is a sacred site that has a history for all of our people. As Americans, and newly created Americans that came out of that situation, you know, because African Americans clearly weren't counted as Americans at that point.
Exactly.
Right. And so that history was super important.
Women.
Right, and women, and so you get all these stories, and you know you find the nuances of the stories are just fascinating, and the right park ranger can make all the difference, because every park ranger comes at their tours differently,
so true.
And so so I will take the same tour like 4 or 5 times with 4 or 5 different park rangers just to get a sense of what their thing is, right? And want to hear what their story is.
Oh, because everyone adapts because we're all human, right? So that makes
right. So we all come at it different ways.
I want to go to you, Otis. I don't know if you've been to Gettysburg, but
no,
definitely
never been
Smoky Mountains. There's history there too. I mean, that's like Appalachian country, and that's going to be. I mean, you've got photos of churches and Lincoln Logs.
Right. And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that, and that we're on this particular topic, because some of the driving force and some of the images I used for that little ebook were totally outside of what I would usually use, or even when I put at my art fair and my art shows, because I wanted to show a side of the Smokies. Because all of the national parks I've been to, there's only a handful that you can, visit all sides of the park and see old structures from the 18 and 1700s. I mean, I think the Tetons has got some things I've seen, but I'm gonna tell you, in the Smokies, you can go all through that park, and it's a huge area, and you will literally feel like you were part of the 1800s. I mean, these are the real structures, and these are also a lot of subjects that people don't really photograph or try to make a nice composition from them. And so that history part for me, because when I first started going to Smokies, I was all about the grand scale of the park, color, grand scale. But then as I continued to go and wanted to look for different subjects, different compositions, that's when I actually took time out to say, all right, let's learn some history about this place, because if I learn some history, then I can connect with the park in a different manner. And so stuff I drove by for 4 or 5 years, I all of a sudden was making stops at.
That's amazing.
And it's just that's it for us. We got stuck into all these stories, and it's like, okay, we could just start, becoming historians. And I want to bring that in with John-Degrazio over in Yosemite. John, you were one of the people that, like, when you took us around, you opened our eyes to Galen Clark, beyond John Muir and Ansel Adams that everyone thinks about, but you also took us back to them, which is so important. We can't just, sometimes in history, we like, oh, this person, we all know about him, who cares? Not who cares, but there's like taken for granted is the word. And you also, we just go, oh, we know that name, but we don't really know what the hell we're talking about, but we know that name. And so, when you took us around Yosemite, you taught us of the stories of Galen Clark. You told us the stories of the Native American lore between the mountains. And it was amazing to me. And so that's something I think that sometimes people may miss about Yosemite is the history aspect, because cultures and people have lived there through years. I mean, artists have lived there, conservationists have lived there, Native Americans have lived there. I mean, it's amazing.
I think that it helps you make a stronger connection with the place. Curiosity is so important. We want our children to be curious. We want, when we teach classes, we want people to ask questions. And, when I first came here, that's really the first thing I did, was just try to learn as much as I could. And it helped me become a better photographer. It helped me become a better leader and guide. And, I'm always learning. I just wanted to add, I was down in Atlanta in November, so I went to Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield, and, just reading some of the signs. Obviously I grew up in a similar situation on the East Coast in the North. So I did live in Atlanta for a little while, but at the same time, I wanted to go into that place and think about what it would have been like to be a teenager in the Confederate Army and having to try to defend this place. And it was interesting. I tried to use my imagination and, thinking about composing an image. I found this battery of cannons, and what was interesting to me was to see how there were flowers growing inside of that battery. And that's what I was really focusing on, the peaceful aspect of it.
Wow.
I think it's really interesting with different photographers or artists or writers that they approach it from their personal aspect, which I love, because if we all approached everything from the same aspect, it'd be really boring, like chain hotels and chain restaurants.
Yeah, I agree. And when we do a photo class, it really excites me. Like last night we had about 15 students, and we go to an area and we tell them, okay, try to make an image in nature. And you see people getting on the ground, you see people at all different angles, and one group goes in one direction, another group goes in another, and then someone just decides they want to go completely on their own. That's what we need, all of those different points of view, different perspectives, different voices.
John, did you just say that on purpose? Because you taught me, like,
go there.
Lisa, to this day, everybody's still going, like, you go down, Lisa.
Get down,
you gotta
Lisa.
Get down.
Get down.
And it's like, it's not that movie that everyone's thinking about. But John goes, like, if you got down over here, if you, like, actually just sat down or, like, lowered your body, you would be able to get a better photograph of this. And I'm going, if I do this, I'm going to fall in the water. But I get what you're saying. And then I had to, like, sit there and, mold it in my mind. Like, okay, this is how you're going to get a better photo. And it has taken me everywhere. And when we go places, Nancy goes, get down, Lisa, get down. This is the daily thing of every time we go on a trip. Get down. And thank you, John, for that. Because
there is, like,
and not only get down, but move.
Yeah, because there's
don't rely on the photographer.
There's a thing I want to call bingo wings photography.
Oh, with the cell phones, especially.
Yeah, the cell phone.
You
bingo
did not
wings.
just say bingo wings.
I did, sorry. But it's like elbows out, bingo wings photography with a cell phone, where that's why your image is blurry, because you're waving your arm, your wings out, and put your arms into your body. We don't need to see your bingo wings. Take a breath and take a photo. I'm just clicking because I'm here. And so it goes right around with get down. If you need to bend your body,
and if you need to get dirty, get dirty. Damn it!
Well, it's about to say that
you're in nature.
There should be no reason for you to stay clean by the time you get out of there.
If you, exactly.
Yeah.
If you come out cleany weeny like you went in, you didn't take a photo.
You didn't go to a get down and get dirty.
No bingo wings allowed, and get dirty.
Oh my God, the bingo wings.
Sorry.
I know.
True.
I know. But okay, Sandra, so you did Everglades and Biscayne. We haven't done Biscayne yet, but Everglades is what started us on our journey. It was like, that was the part when we drove. We had a conference to be at. Like, we did a radio show for this gardening thing, and and they said, no, we'll fly you here. And we're like, hell no, we're road tripping. We don't do flying. We'd go road tripping. And it was after some hurricanes had happened. It was 2012,
I don't know.
I think, and we drove across through places that we had lived, and we saw what happened, hurricanes and just the general economy. And we're like, damn, tourism needs to happen. It needs to happen through our parks. We were doing so many interviews with NPCA, the National Parks Conservation Association. We rocked. We were just like, we need to make this happen. We got to the Everglades. We played hooky, truly. When we were in the Everglades, we went to the Everglades playing hooky. We were supposed to be doing this, that. We're like, okay, we don't need to play business with this stuff. We know this is, go off. We went in there, and everything changed for us. It was like being back in Africa. Everything changed, and we didn't have that much time. Everything changed. It was like, boom, bada bing, bada bing. And you have alligators right at your ankles. So like getting down, like John, but you do.
Right up the snout.
So you were there, and you were in the Biscayne area, and you kayaked out there. What was that experience? like going out there, because we learned how to kayak in Louisiana, and there's gators and stuff, and it's like suddenly the most thrilling thing of your life. What was that like? Where most people will go, "What the hell are you doing going out there?" Crocodiles, alligators, there's pythons, there's all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a question I get asked often. And so, the "what the hell are you doing" part. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Because I usually travel alone, so it's usually just me. And people are always sort of like, how can you go in these places with these wild animals? I mean, first of all, you do your research, right? You know your stuff. You know that you're not going to hit an alligator with your paddle, and make him mad. And so otherwise he's not going to bother you. So, so I went out once in Biscayne and once, in the Everglades. And I also paddled down at John Pennekamp State Park, which is down in Key Largo. And I really wanted to get out among the mangroves and, because they just fascinate me. I'd never really seen mangroves before, but most of that area, when I go, I usually go in January, February, 1, because the bugs aren't as bad, and 2, the water's receding, and so you just get a lot of life moving around. And so the water's usually about a foot or 2 high in some of these areas. So when you're kayaking, you're right there. You see the bottom, you see the life, you see the Cassiopeia jellyfish, and you see the nurse sharks following you and stuff. And so it was absolutely amazing. And I, on these trips, I usually try to make friends with park rangers who know a little bit about the backcountry and stuff. And so once in a while, I'll grab one of them and take them along with me. And so they can teach me what I wouldn't know. Cause the last thing you want to do is Google something when you're out in the middle of nowhere on a paddleboard. So, you take a park ranger and you can say, "Hey, what's this going on?" But, it's one of the most amazing and peaceful experiences. And the Everglades, made me cry the first time I went there.
It tripped me out. It just shifted me the hell out. Awesome. And we went out with an MPCA representative to learn about trolling and poling out in the water. Seriously. Yeah. And I thought, I know about this. No, but it was about how the nesting birds were on the islands and how people need to boat. And it was incredible. There were roseate spoonbill out in the distance. And I was just like, wow. And it was amazing. But I think it's important what you say. I mean, because, go hang out with a park ranger, and they have programs. Like, I know that you publish nationalparkpatchlady.com. I'm going to give you a shout out to that, because people can see your experiences and see a woman going out there on her own. And you travel on your own half the time, right? And go do this. And a lot of people, the time. Right. Well, most people think Nancy and I are a lesbian couple, but we're a mother-daughter team. So just saying, they always, and when we went on travel, like, what if it's anything wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, but we're not. Like, I know my mom inside and out, but Oh, hello. But there's a thing about that, and I think it's amazing that you're doing that. John, I want to move to you on this, because you take people up Half Dome. And people, when they go to the West, are like, "Oh my God, there's snakes, there's rattlesnakes, and oh my God, a coyote could come out, and we're going to get bitten by something." Do you ever have that question come up to you, this fear factor of going on a trek?
Oh, all the time. And it's interesting, because people have that fear of the unknown, and once you get them to break out of that, it's actually amazing to witness. And when we do see a bear on the trail occasionally, they say, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." And the biggest issue is to overcome that fear. And when we lead up Half Dome, there's also the fear when we get to the cables. So it's constantly people trying to overcome fears, break through barriers. And the idea of achieving that self-growth is really important to me. That's part of our mission, is to just get people to go out in nature, whether it's school children from Baltimore who don't normally go out into our national parks, or someone who has on their bucket list at the age of 65 who wants to reach the top of Half Dome. That's awesome. We're constantly challenging people and getting them to break through those comfort zones and being okay with it. Yesterday we had those kids from New York. One of them wanted a photo of Half Dome at the riverbank, and they really weren't getting the angle they wanted. So I encouraged her to zip off the legs of her pants and go right in the water to take the picture. And there she
you
was.
made her get down, dude. Dude, I know you.
The Merced River. So
I know you, Don. Even if it's snowing and ice cubes, there's these crazy ice cubes that happen in the river, and you'll go like, get in there.
We had 10 people in the river yesterday.
You have become a household phrase in our house.
Get down.
Where it's like, get down, Lisa. It doesn't mean you have to lie flat. It just means do what it needs.
All I can say is James Brown is pissed at you.
No, it is really about doing what it needs to get the picture that you envision.
Get dirty. That's the point. That's the point. Someone just pointed
that you immerse yourself in the experience, and there's nothing like it. Can't substitute it with TV or anything else.
I just want to say this:
do not take
a selfie on the edge of the Grand Canyon and fall in and be stupid. Can I just say that idiots out there who do that?
But
sorry, not calling you an idiot, but I am just saying, like,
what you're talking about is superficial. I'm here. It's me. That is not immersing yourself in the experience. That's a total ego trip. Me versus. Did you get anything from where you...
Are you looking at what you want? Do you know what you're looking at? So, Otis, do you get down into the mud?
I do what I need to do to be different.
Exactly.
You get down? Do you go camping? Like, what is your park experience as a photographer? Because this is what you do is like really fascinating with your work, because I know you've traveled to a number of national parks. And you create these amazing photos. We see them on Instagram. Thank you. Everyone's got a photo. Go follow.
Well, here's the caveat. What I show online and social media is a fraction of what I mean. Those pictures I show online are specifically chosen for that purpose, and usually those are the same photos I make available for stock imagery. But I don't even touch an image for 6 months to a year after it's even taken.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
It goes on my hard drive, and I like to revisit it with fresh eyes and
wow.
Just a removed experience. But anyway, I got fears, and all that too. But they vary.
Okay, so tell us about this going out. Like, so what's your next trip? Or let's go on the last trip you took into a national park. And what that experience is like, because did you get down in the water, in the mud? I want to know. Or what is your very big fears and things? Because I think everyone experiences, and I think this is why this conversation is so important today, because I know people who won't even go to a national park because they think they have to have a backpack on and have 2 legs to do it, and that's not true.
Right? Okay. Well, my experiences are somewhat, I don't want to say a lot different, but they do vary, primarily because, when I first of all, 95% of the time I'm alone, and I'm an African American. So my fears were really with the nature. I ran across bears, moose, and all that. I wasn't really scared of nature. My biggest fears was just me being a black man out in the middle of nowhere alone.
Right.
And so those were always my biggest concerns, and I try camping and all that, but I have too much hardware and money, and so I have to do the hotel thing. But I must say, I have more issues with strange characters, human beings, than I do with animals.
Yes, I think Nancy and I can attest to that. You. And I think even Sandra may back this up, because there is.
I've
had my life threatened a couple of times.
Oh
no! I have to say, people are scarier than animals ever would be. I would welcome Tyrannosaurus Rex in the park before other people sometimes.
Just only if you have a breed
I've had some crazy things. I've had people walk up to me. I got a headlamp on. It's 3:30 in the morning. I'm sitting, doing what I do. and I see people come up to me with handguns strapped to their thighs, asking me if, are you okay here, or what are you doing here, as if they're park rangers, and they're just people like me.
Oh my God!
And so, no one's really ever like threatened to kill me, but when I run into issues, I run into the soft threats, the kind of I call them soft threats, just to kind of they think they're making me feel uncomfortable, but they're really not. But I don't want to piss them off either.
Right. So you're in that weird zone. And I think that that is so important because it's one thing I know with the national park system. Oh, the Centennial was a huge deal. I know, John, you're an ambassador for Yosemite of the Centennial that happened. That's right. I thought the Centennial was so awesome. And then the whole world just changed after that. Let me just put it that way. But here's the thing. The one thing that we've covered on shows was the lack of presence of African Americans being in our national park system, or Mexican Americans, or anybody, and women being, there's been this huge movement to actually create parks and exhibitions of all of the history, and also bring everybody into the park system. And it's there's so many reasons. Like, I could do a whole show, which we have done a gazillion times on it, because and it still needs to be brought up over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's a lot of places that John, you brought up Baltimore. How many times do kids in Baltimore get to go to a national park unit?
Right.
It doesn't happen.
It's not enough.
And, right.
And the most common question I get asked on the road is, your husband lets you go by yourself?
I saw you wrote that on the post, and I told Nancy right before you came on the show. She talked about, does your husband let you? Nancy almost fell off the balcony. She got so pissed off.
It is the most common question I get asked while I'm camping or while I'm out on the road is, your husband lets you go?
Oh my God, we're supposed to be the most newest and out there country, the most progressive, the most this, the most that, and we are so behind in so many places. It drives me nuts.
And yet
it's like, I mean, we lived in Kenya, we lived in South Africa, we lived in England, we lived in Mexico. And can I just say, this country is, especially right now, the most behind, embarrassing. I can't take it.
I know. It's
hard. All we can do as people who love our country and who love our parks is be the best ambassador of those things that we can be, right? And hopefully people will then see that we are Americans under these skies and under, on this land that is amazing and belongs to all of us.
Right. I agree. I have to do that every day. I get lots of questions. What is going on with your country? And we just have to be the ambassadors. We have to be the ones to smile and rise above all of the negativity we're seeing.
I want to say, John, with you going, because you take a lot of families in there too, and at the same time, you have some really amazing African American history that happens in Yosemite. It happens in Sequoias National and Kings Canyon. You've got Charles Young. You've got some history that we have to dig up every time it's National Black History Month, right? Okay, I think that's a great month. However, I don't think we should have to have a month. It should be like out there all the time.
Every day.
Otis, you can chime in on this one.
I agree.
I'm not trashing the month. I understand the month has to be there.
I agree with
we have to have gay pride parades and Stonewall
more
should be
awareness.
A monument. It all has to happen.
Absolutely. I would say that my favorite number one National Historical Site in the United States that I have been to, of the 159 I've been to, is Maggie L. Walker National Historical Site. Hands down. And nobody knows her name. Right?
Yeah.
I went to Richmond, Virginia. Wow. I visited with a friend of mine who's a college professor. He's a dean at the University of Virginia in Richmond. And he said, "Oh, my son goes to Maggie L. Walker Elementary School. I don't even know who she is."
Yeah.
And so I had to tell him her story. And it is one of the most amazing stories. And I'm honored that the National Park Service recognizes her, but I really wish more people would know those stories as opposed to just having a month about those
Don't
stories.
you think the media should grow up and do more than, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be, I mean, John, you know Nancy and I, obviously, and we're still showing our colors of who we are here. We get a little antagonistic on this, and because it
it's
becomes
much more than just
Centennial
media,
Week
though.
comes in. Everybody comes in. It's Centennial Week. Here, people are pitching, oh, there's national parks. I'm like, really? Have you looked at who we are? We travel national parks. Have you even looked? We have a magazine dedicated to it. Grow up. And it's like Centennial Month, the Centennial is here, and National Parks Week, and here it is. And yet I want to say, can the news media, can we start, like everybody out there other than us, because we're doing it and you guys are all doing it, can the mainstream media not have a national day or a month or a year to cover our parks because they have the history of everything we're going through? Now they have it. And so I just want to say, like, can't we have this as an ongoing thing, that it isn't a centennial that makes you look at a national park? It's like the Centennial is here. Everybody's pitching things to us like for a year. And I'm like, yeah, we know. And then after that, it just gets dropped. It's like
it does. I agree. But, you know, you've also got, this year happens to be the 50th anniversary of the Gaines and Redwoods and the National Scenic Trail System. And so they're doing a really great job of getting that information out. But I think that, you know, in order for people to get excited, there has to be a sexy catch to it. And the sexy catch is it's their birthday, right?
See, she's got the political thing going. She's got it. She knows. It's true. We do.
With the national media doesn't, well, maybe they're too busy following the White House.
I'm not going against the holidays. I'm just saying I want them to continue on.
But
that's our job now, right?
I know, but there doesn't seem to be a segment, especially now, in any national news where they talk about our national parks. And
I would like to see it as a national thing ongoing.
Because it's almost like taken for granted, and that's a really dangerous place to be. Nobody wants to be, as a person, taken for granted, because that's when you get the boot out. No. And I feel like our park system, be it state or national or municipal, it's kind of taken for granted, especially when budgets get cut. Then it's
state parks take the hit.
Yeah, they really
big
do.
Time.
And and I don't disagree with any of that. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. My thing is, you know, there's so much other stuff going on in the world that we need to be mindful of, right? And so our jobs as photographers, as activists, as people who care about these parks, we're the, you know, when I was in politics, one of the main things that we talked about is that people vote on emotion, right? And so when there's emotional things that happen, that's what people gravitate towards. And so right now, the big emotional subject is the March for Our Lives, right? And so that's taking a lot of people's emotions. And so you can't fault people for having, you know, this ADD with all of our technology and whatever. And so the only way that stuff is going to be put in front of the media or people in general is for us to create it and put it in front of them. And so
but people need to stop voting with emotions and educate themselves on what the real issues are and who the players really are and what really is going on.
And I would love for that to happen,
and put emotions aside. I mean, because that may have worked for decades, but it's almost come to a point that it's worked too long, because of the scenarios and the situations we see playing out in our own country today is a direct result of people voting for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that, but I will tell you that as human beings, that's just a default for a majority of people, unfortunately. And that's, you know, so that's what, you know, I take it upon
That's why we're all doing this right now.
Exactly.
You know, the arts carry it. And I want to go to John. John, this is one of the things that you do, the Yosemite Can of Peaches radio show. And this is so cool. So I want to bring this up. I want to give you a plug on this because you're covering Yosemite. And I mean, God, you could do that for years and never run out of fodder.
Right, and with my Yosemite Can of Peaches.
That was a good segue, right?
Yeah, it was. It was perfect.
It's all about the sweet rewards of being out in nature. I originally had a can of peaches on the top of Mount Rainier in Mount Rainier National Park.
Oh, we love it there. Oh,
that was my reward for making the summit. And for many years, I was telling people, let's get to the top of Half Dome, or let's get to the top of this mountain, and we'll have a candy bar, or we'll have some pizza, or we'll have our can of peaches. But in reality, the peaches are the reward of just going on the adventure. So I have my show now. I interview experts in Yosemite, whether they're rock climbers or if they're photographers or painters or musicians or park rangers. The idea is just to have them share how Yosemite in particular, but, you know, national parks and being out in nature, how that's shaped their lives. And everyone has a story to tell. And, you know, now those kids are going to go home and say, we walked into the Merced River. That's their can of peaches moment. So I try to capture that in my show.
I think that's so important. And I love the family aspect too, because that raises this generation that are taken care of. Like you look at what's happening with March of Lives right now, right? These youth going out there and standing up. And I feel like that's the same thing for our parks. But we need to, as adults, take care of these places for them and be inspired by these stories. Like Galen Clark, you got me hooked on Galen Clark. John.
He was a good man. He was a very good man.
So go ahead, Nancy. She's jumping up and down.
I just have to say, in Mount Rainier, which was
you know our relationship.
Okay. So amazing to us. And one of the things I saw that just like I was like that's if you want to talk about the spirit of America. What I saw was a grandson helping a 90-plus-year-old great-grandmother walk out to see the blossoms of Mount Rainier. And I watched it, and they were silent. I was like, okay, is that son, grandson, whatever? I'm like, why am I even thinking that? That's so stupid. As she came around the bend and saw the flowers, this little when she was taking baby steps with a walker, and so there was effort, and her face, I was like, I know what you look like when you were 20. She was beautiful. She was so happy. She had tears, and it was like all the stuff was going on around, but and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think you're gonna die happy just now. And that to me is what I say our parks are about. And if we lose them, we're going to die friggin' miserable.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, each of you, the same experience Nancy talks about. There's these life-changing moments we have in parks. So let's talk about that experience. I know we've talked a little bit about them on the show today, but let's start with you, Otis.
Wow, I was afraid you were going to do that. I'm sitting here in my mind.
I knew. Come on now. I'm going to get emotional with you now. Get your tissues out. No.
Oh, man. Man. I want to say I have so many, but I'm trying to just really grab one.
Yeah, it's hard.
Because I've, quite frankly, and I'll admit, I really never sat down and say, all right, that was a life-changing moment. I experience special moments from time to time, and I just chalk them up. Okay, that was a great moment. But I haven't gotten to that point where I start putting them in categories, if you will.
Well, just give us a moment, because really, they're all special moments. Sometimes only become life-changing 10 years later. You never know.
Maybe you're luckier than a lot of people.
Yeah, because if you're out there more, you're going to see more, like John gets to. And oh my gosh, Sandra, excuse me, 159. I'm just like, I think we need to make a cocktail in your honor.
One excuse for a cocktail.
One of the moments that I it always comes back to me, and this was only I think 4 years ago, Grand Tetons, and again I'm always alone. It was in Grand Tetons. I don't know, it's 3:34 in the morning. A moose, a large moose, scared the living daylights out of me. I'm set up with a tripod in a certain position, but the point I'm trying to drive home here is the moose did not think nothing of me. He stood in the water, drinking his water, and was basically taking photos of me. And and to sit there, I think I had to say about 30 minutes went by. The moose didn't move. I mean, the only thing that moved was his head going back into the water, and the moose must have been maybe 8-9 feet away. And so I didn't know whether to stop what I was doing. I just continued doing what I was doing. The moose continued to do what it was doing. But the point I'm trying to make here is that was so special because I didn't know what to expect. You know, I didn't know to be scared. I didn't know to enjoy it. I didn't know to continue to do what I was doing. And all the moose did was just sit and watch me, I guess, make sure I wasn't going to bother him.
Right.
Wow.
It's still an amazing moment.
What are you doing?
So did he continue hanging out, or what happened from there?
Oh, no, he hung out. I mean, so when it was time for me to move, and by then the sun was already, you know, I don't want to say completely up, but I mean, it was maybe an hour and a half that went by, and he just basically stayed in the same little area. So I had to leave the area and literally walk by him. So as I walked by the moose, I got closer, and it just looked at me.
It's like I already know who you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was special. It was special.
That is so amazing when that happens.
Because I never realized I could be that close to an animal that size, and it really didn't. And I didn't threaten it. It didn't feel threatened by me.
But see, animals get that. They know.
They know.
I mean, I was charged by a moose once in Yellowstone, not because I did something. Well, I did.
Oh, hello.
Well, I was walking on the path you're supposed to walk on, but there was separation between mama and baby. And then I saw the whites of the eyes and the charge, and I was like, uh-oh. But all you do is sidestep.
Right.
And it went right by. It just wanted to be reconnected with baby. And yeah, you know, and it's like you have to not.
You can't be just focused on yourself.
If the attempt to connect with nature, which we all came from, it's so weird that we have to reconnect with nature, where that's where we came from. But that's how our civilization is. So it's a process. That's all I got to say about that.
So John,
it was the experience was so real because I mean, I didn't know what to be scared, what to do. And I continued on what I was doing, but the animal just basically was just looking at me and saying, have a good time, and I got your back kind of thing.
Yeah, they do, because if they know that you're there and you haven't done anything like.
And then there'll be a film on Netflix. Look at this photographer I saw.
Yeah.
Right.
And guess what? And Otis, he doesn't care what color you are.
Like a moose. You know, like this is what we see people do.
Just saying, they don't care. They're like, whatever, man. You're there. You're not causing anything. I don't care. You know, you're treating.
Now the funny thing about that, if you would have told me I would have been in that situation maybe a day before that, I would have said you're crazy. I just would say no. I'm not. I'm not set for that. I'm not ready for that.
I think it's funny.
But that's it. Like, you're like, dude, I'm going to hang out with. We hung out with bears in Sequoia National Park.
Yeah,
we didn't know we were hanging out with bears. And then all of a sudden, mama and babies. And then it was like, holy cow, look at this. And we're like, this is so cool. And they're just, oh my God, it's like amazing. Yeah, I could live in a meadow for the rest of my life. But John, let's hear about one of your life-defining moments. I mean, you're in Yosemite all the time, but you've been to so many national parks, and you definitely don't have the accent of a Yosemite in.
Wait.
What are you trying to tell me? There's a special accent I need to learn?
Yeah. You have more of a Statue of Liberty. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Wait, before we go any further, please confirm, is there an accent in Yosemite or no?
Yes.
There's a Yosemite accent, yes.
There's a
Yosemite vibe, but I don't know about the accent.
No, you have to go to the Iron Door Saloon in Groveland.
Yeah.
And hang out with the locals and find out.
That's right. I've done that.
No, but we went to the Hotel Charlotte with you and had Bloody Marys. That they actually make their Bloody Marys like fresh. Is that still happening, John? We haven't been there for a while.
Yeah, the Charlotte is always great. It's always a great place to go. And we had some incredible Bloody Marys. But my story is pretty life-changing for sure. After college, I moved down to Atlanta for a little while, and then I was going to get my first job in New York City, so I was really excited. A couple friends and I had planned a trip after college graduation to go cross-country, and we had to ditch our plans. And right before I got this new job in New York, I said, hey, let's go on that trip now that we can afford to take a little bit of time off. And each of us decided we were going to take a couple weeks off, and we were going cross country. And the theme was baseball parks and national parks. And in the first couple cities, we went to Cleveland, we went to Chicago, we went to Kansas City, we went to all these great baseball parks, Wrigley Field. And then we get to Denver, and we're supposed to go to a game in Denver that night, but we decide that our first national park is Rocky Mountain National Park. And there's three of us, and none of us had ever been to a national park. Three kids from New Jersey going into a national park for the first time. So we did everything wrong. We didn't have food. We didn't have lights. We barely had any water. So we're searching for this waterfall on this trail. And obviously it's July, so it's a seasonal waterfall that didn't exist at the time.
Right.
And it starts to get dark, and we're just playing around, climbing on rocks, and we realize we have to get back, and it's really getting dark on us now. And we have this group of elk come trampling through this meadow, and they're about 20 yards away from us, and we're just standing there in amazement. We get back on the trail, and as we're going down the trail, maybe a half a mile from the trailhead, it's just about dark, and sure enough, we see a bear. And this bear is now coming up the trail following us. So we don't know what to do. We decide, okay, we're going to devise a plan. The meadow's on the left, this forest is on the right. The mama bear's got to be in the meadow, so we're going to run through the forest, and we're going to outflank the bear and run to the car.
Run, Forrest, run!
So, of course, we do everything wrong, and we split up instead of staying together. And, and all of a sudden, I'm running. I see this huge dark object about 10 feet in front of me, and I just stop. And I just think to myself, this is it. This is the end. And I look up, and luckily, it's just a tree stump. But at the same time, we had no idea what we were getting into. We made it back to the car. No one said another word for the next 20 minutes. And we never went to another baseball park on that trip. We only went to national parks.
And everybody, this is your guide in Yosemite, yexplore.com. Just saying. Just saying. I love that. I love it because having done so much in Africa, like, I feel your pain. Yeah. You've heard about Nancy sitting on a rock naked because Joy Adamson told her, you need to do this. You heard that in the one talk. Oh, it's so funny. And suddenly, things are moving around and you're naked. I was stupid enough to do it. But she says, like, you're too visual. You have to smell and
Were you drinking?
No.
Whoa.
No. And she's like, take your clothes off, sit on the, and I mean, I was working for her, and we just flew over there, and I was like,
straight out of America.
Yeah. And she's like, you're too visual, and you have to sit on the rocks naked. And I did it because she was my boss. I'm like, that would not happen today, let me tell you.
No.
Yeah. Or maybe so I did. I sat on a rock naked in the middle of, oh boy.
And daylight?
Was it?
It was daylight.
This is in Kenya, in Samburu.
In Kenya, and then you're supposed to now hear the birds because you can't, because you're visual, and smell the rhino pee, which you can from 2 miles away. I learned so much, and I thank her a whole lot every day for that experience. Although I also wanted to kill her.
Yeah. Well, she got murdered later, but it wasn't Nancy. So we don't want to say that,
Oh my goodness.
I know. Well, anyway, everybody could go sit on a rock and smell rhino pee at any time that they want to, naked or
no, they got a Kenyan picture or something going on.
There is something about being free, and there is something about just being quiet and listening. And I think the parks, when you get out into a park, you start to really hear and listen. And when you're in the city area, we're kind of cityfied here in Tucson, but we have a really amazing system where there's riparian areas, and there's like this city is amazing in having greenery and trails. We have a 131-mile loop that connects cyclists and walkers. I mean, that's amazing for a city. And so it's really cool. And so it does give wildlife a place, but you can hear the difference between wildlife calls and bird calls between a city area and going into the bush, or into a park, I should say. There's a difference that happens, and there's a difference in their activities. There's a difference in their appearance. There's a difference in everything. And the more we can do to have these spaces is key. I mean, it's interesting. And as individuals going into these places, the more we can kind of drop trowel and listen, like, I don't know, everybody should their thing. But I want to go to you, Sandra. For you, what was that defining moment for you?
It's really hard to narrow it down.
It is.
It is. And I've got two that are really short. And so I think I'm going to share just both of them really quickly. So the first one is last July, I was in upstate New York. And I was at Women's Rights National Historical Park, and I had just gotten word that my father had passed away. And it was a really amazing moment, sort of, to be in the park, to be in this church where these women, you know, fought for the right to vote, and then to get this call that my father had passed. And the very next day, I got an email from that park. I'm sorry?
I got an email from the person who runs that park a year or so ago. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. So it's a beautiful park. It's amazing. And Seneca Falls is really engaged in making sure that that's a phenomenal park. But nonetheless, the very next day I went to Fort Stanwix. And it was raining, and it was miserable, and it was cold, and it was the middle of July, and I couldn't understand why it was so miserable and cold. But I got there 15 minutes before the visitor center opened, and I'd sort of let them know that I was going to be there, but it wasn't a big deal. And 8:45, the door opens, and this jovial gentleman pops his head out and says, "I know you, come in here." And he introduced me to all of the park rangers, and he spent the entire day with me the day after my father had passed away, and showed me Fort Stanwix, and sort of gave me the history from a very unique perspective. And I'm grateful and blessed to have had that moment when it did. Yeah. And so Ranger Dan was just amazing. And so if you ever go to Fort Stanwix, Ranger Dan's your guy. So the second really life-changing moment for me was the first time I'd gone to the Everglades. And I had signed up for what was called a sluice log, and I had no idea what this was. And I was like, I don't know, but it sounds interesting. And basically what you do is you walk in knee-high mud for about a quarter of a mile into the cypress dome. And Ranger Jeff, who during the summer is up at St. Croix Scenic Waterway, and then the winter he's down at the Everglades, took us out, and there was a dozen of us, and we slogged through this knee-high mud, and almost tripped over, and my camera's getting sloshed, and all this stuff is going on. And we stopped in this big open clearing of cypress in this clear water that you could see your feet, and I just started crying. And at the end of it, Ranger Jeff was like, if you could say one word about this, what would you say? And I was speechless. And it's not very often. It's not very often that I'm speechless, and I just had tears running down my face. And Ranger Jeff has become a good buddy of mine, and we keep in touch. And it was just such an amazing moment to have him pointing out the air plants on the cypress. And walking through the super clear water that at any moment we could stumble upon the gators that were there, and we saw the spoonbills flying through the trees, and hear the owls, and so it was just one of those moments where I'm with a dozen strangers, and it was perfectly quiet, and we just all were there in nature. And so it was a pretty special moment.
That is incredible. That is incredible. The Everglades were amazing when we got to sneak out from our conference, which was a gardening conference. Now I'm going to get busted. And we were doing radio shows from there, hooky. And we did really play hooky. And they were all like, we had to go back to the dinners after. I mean, we did Shark Valley and hauled back. I mean, to get back to Fort Lauderdale is where we were running back.
Oh, that's a drive. And Miami traffic is horrible.
I know, and everybody's like, and we'd make it back for the evening things, and then we'd haul back the next day, and still do radio shows in the days in between. We were supposed to do this whole thing, and then the one person, and I hate to say this on air, but I'm saying it. I was like, oh my God, there are bromeliads growing in the trees, and there are orchids, and he's like, well, that's what happens in the hurricanes. The hurricanes took our plants and flew them into the Everglades, and that's when we said we're not doing any more of these conferences, and that was history. Like, honestly,
that's crazy.
I know. Don't even start me. I can't believe I even just said this, but like Nancy and I always talk about this. The bromeliads to me were incredible to see, and to have these hammocks of these hardwood trees that we hadn't seen in since Africa. That was like, oh my God, I'm home. And we lived in Florida and never went there. And that is,
I know, that's another
that's the thing. We have national park units in our backyards, and sometimes it's the Everglades or the Saguaro, national park we have, or Yosemite that, John has. Now, you have smaller parks, historical parks. Austin, not necessarily. You have Big Thicket near you, and you have the trail, the historic trail, the El Camino Real. I can't remember the whole thing.
De La Tejas. Exactly. Well,
exactly.
So there's 16 national parks in Texas. The closest national historical site to Austin would be a tie between LBJ Ranch, which is the Lyndon Baines Johnson Texas White House, or the San Antonio Missions. And then about 3 hours away from me, I've got Padre Island National Seashore. And then just to the north, I've got Waco Mammoth National Monument, one of our newest monuments.
That's a lot.
That protects. I mean, we've got 16 in Texas. Obviously we have Big Bend. We've got Big Thicket out to the Louisiana border. You go north, you've got Guadalupe Mountains up there near New Mexico, about not far from Carlsbad Caverns. But you've got places like Alabate Flint Quarries, which is up just outside of Amarillo, that protects one of the most amazing flint quarries from the caveman days, right?
So it's amazing. That's exactly it. These historic sites. Okay, I want to ask each of you as we close up here. Campfire karaoke. We laugh about this from back in our days of having a band and actually performing at horse ranches and stuff. But we used to always laugh. It was campfire karaoke at the end of the day.
No. You're not going to ask me to sing, are you?
No, we're going to be nice. We're going to be nice. But we are going to ask you. You're going to have a campfire. You're going to invite 3 people, alive, passed on, or fictional. You want 3 people to hang with you at this campfire. Where are you hanging out at this campfire? Okay, we want to know. This is our happy hour question normally, but where
are we hanging out?
Park party. So you're hanging out.
Okay.
We want to know what food and drink is happening at the campfire. We know John's got burritos, but I know he's got more. Burritos are good, by the way. So you've got campfire, 3 people. Where? What are you eating and drinking? What are you going to talk about? And we want to know, campfire karaoke happens. What song are you singing at campfire karaoke?
Okay, but I have to interject here and say we are outlawing Kumbaya.
No, Kumbaya's got to go because everybody thinks that happens with, campfires.
So we're not doing
we want, and if you want to trade the song for a ghost story, you're allowed to do that. So, John, I'm starting with you because you do a lot of campfires and host a lot of campfires. You take families out. Everywhere. You go everywhere with these now. So let's see. Where are you going to have your campfire? Let's just start there. Where's the place?
I would have my campfire at Thousand Island Lake in the Ansel Adams Wilderness.
Okay.
Wow.
So before you get to the karaoke part, I want to tell you, you've got to look up Mark Vickness. MarkVickness.com is an amazing guitar player. We just interviewed who wrote a song about that place specifically, and he's in our Parks and Travel magazine. I'm not trying to promote that, but you've got to check out his album. It's amazing. It's called Places, and the very first song is there, and he said he wrote the song because he can ask his wife to marry him when she was happy up in those elevations, because she was happiest there than when she was lower in elevation.
In other words,
so
she
he
had
knew
less oxygen.
She had less oxygen to ask her there.
So that's why she said yes.
Yes. Anyway, so sorry, but yes, there was just a good tie-in for karaoke, and it's an amazing album. But okay, so Thousand Islands Lake. Okay, so who's coming to the party?
Who's going to the party? That's such a hard question. It really is. How about I'm gonna cop out very easily. I'm gonna invite 4 people. All of you on the call will be at my party,
Cool.
and we're gonna eat trail burritos, and we're gonna drink moonshine.
Oh,
we're gonna have
right.
moonshine. Okay,
Awesome.
okay. Can we add Priscilla, our pink sock monkey, our travel
Of
mascot?
course.
You missed Priscilla. Come on, I know you do. You photographed her. It's the best photo shoot she's ever had in Yosemite.
I know, and I
In
gave her an extra Bloody Mary while
I
you guys
know.
weren't looking.
Okay, so we're gonna do that. So you're not even inviting Galen Clark to the party? Like, seriously, I'm shocked.
We could invite him too, but that, as long as that doesn't break the rules, we get to sit down with Galen Clark, all of us.
Okay,
That work?
You've got to. I know you want to invite him, right? Like, toss up between him and John Muir. Who would you invite?
I would invite Galen Clark. Like I said,
knew
he's the unsung hero of Yosemite. I feel, he's looked at historically a little unfavorably. Some people use the word a failed businessman, but I just think he was just ahead of his time, and just, he was ultimately at the end, he did okay because they gave him a lease to stay in Yosemite at $1 a year when he was older, but his hotel did not succeed just because of other circumstances. So I
saw that story. I saw that story on NPR. They did a special that went into what you're just talking about, the hotel and all that.
Right,
that was new to me.
So
the only reason why I mentioned it is because when I heard it, that was new to me.
And I will sing the only song that I've ever sung karaoke, and it was the only thing that people could possibly tolerate me singing would be Pearl Jam, Jeremy.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to hear that. I want to be there.
Okay.
Oh my God, in class today. Yeah. I can see you just like hammer the fire, like,
that would be me.
Oh, right on, John. Okay.
Cool.
So, Sandra, who is coming to your campfire party, and where is it going to be?
Okay, so my campfire party is going to be in Joshua Tree National Park.
Yeah,
Ooh.
our old hometown.
Yeah.
Oh,
nice.
it is amazing. The sherbet color sunrises and sunsets just kill me. So we're having ours in Joshua Tree. My 3 folks are going to be Terry Tempest Williams, the author and environmental conservationist from Utah.
Can I stop you right there? I did have an opportunity to meet her at one of the Yosemite anniversary events. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, for sure.
Wow. Right? Yeah, I met her at the book signing, and I thought the fangirl in me was just swirling. It was awesome. So Terry Tempest Williams, I think I'm going to invite Woody Guthrie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so he can take care of the songs. I'm going to let him run that show.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring my exactly. And I'm going to bring my friend Park Ranger Gary Bremen from Biscayne National Park, who is a phenomenal storyteller and beautiful human being who made me fall in love with Biscayne National Park.
Awesome.
And we got to protect Biscayne right now because they want to drill it for oil. Just
I
saying.
know.
Sorry.
It's like, how stupid can you get?
I can't do that.
On the scale of 1 to 10, how stupid can you get?
I know. We just.
Right. Don't get me started because there's a lot.
I know that's a whole other show. But everybody, ntca.org, go there and follow the alerts of what's going on in parks around the country, around the world, the monuments, barriers.
It's a new show called How Stupid Can You Get?
So
yes.
What are you singing and what are you eating and drinking? We need the food.
So I'm letting Woody Guthrie handle the song. So obviously we start out with This Family Sugarland and we'll, just sort of go on into the evening. And so we're going to have my tinfoil broccoli beef as our dinner. I make a really good tinfoil broccoli beef where you just kind of throw everything in the tinfoil and put it on the fire and lots of sesame oil and whatnot. Yeah, it's super easy. It's one of my go-to recipes. And in drinking, I think we're just going to try a local beer. We're just going to see what the local IPAs are before we hit the camp.
You're not getting out of your song that you're singing for karaoke. You're just not. Sorry.
I will just make it easy and say that we're going to do This Land Is Your Land.
Joanne.
Fitting.
Right on. Joanne. That's good. Good on. Okay. So, Otis.
Oh, God.
Coming to your campfire, and where are you lighting everything up?
Where I'm going. I've had of late, I've taken a big interest. I think I'm not sure on the pronunciation. What's the buried, the land, the areas that were unburied, the Pampas? How do you pronounce that? Is it Pampas? Pampas.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Pampas? Pampas grass?
Yeah. The buried
Don't
land.
Ask me. I'm from South Africa, man, and I'll just
the buried city.
Pampas is right.
Pampas?
Yeah. Pampas.
Not Pampas like in president. Pampas as in grass. Sorry.
Oopsie.
Anyway.
So we're going there.
Yes.
And that's the unburied city, right? The city that was covered in volcano.
Oh, Pompeii.
Oh, you're talking about Pompeii.
There we go.
Oh, wow. We're going out of the country.
Oh, wow.
John, you got to go too then. Okay. Here we go. We're going out. Okay.
So we're going to Pompeii. And what was the next piece?
Who's going with you for the campfire? A campfire in Pompeii. This is badass cool.
Okay. I'm a big music person, and what I mean by a big music person,
I know you are.
I love music from all decades and eras. I mean, I know it all, and if I had to go on Jeopardy for music, I would probably win. But I'm going to make this a music theme. So we're going to go there. I think I'm going to cheat. I need more than 3 people. I'm going to ask Pink Floyd to come along.
Cool. Who? David Gilmour, Roger Waters. What's going on?
I want all of them. They all have their own stories and knowledge I can get. I want them all.
Okay.
Well, if he can bring a band, I want to bring a band.
What about Sid Barrett?
I don't want to cheat too bad. There's only 4 people in Pink Floyd, right?
Sid Barrett from day one. I just got to do it. Since
you need the whole band for the ambiance.
I want Sid Barrett there, but it's not my party.
No.
So, okay.
Now, I picked Pink Floyd because I listen to music a lot, but most of my editing in the middle of the night is usually done to Pink Floyd.
Right on.
All right.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, it's got whale music in there, and you can trip out. It's cool.
Okay.
Cool.
So what was the next part?
Okay, so Pink Floyd, all of them are going, no matter who, what, and where. Okay, now you're having them around the campfire. What are you going to feed and libate them with?
What are you going to feed?
I libate them with. I've never said that in my life. What are you
libating them? We're going to eat Coney Island dogs from Detroit. The original Coney Island dogs.
Oh, yeah, that's like the hot dog with the mustard in the
From Nathan's?
No, from American Coney Island.
Oh.
In Italy. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay.
Wait. Nathan's.
Oh, is it something I have to make?
No, I'm just saying, but like, wait a minute. What's Nathan's versus Nathan's? Isn't that a famous dog thing? I don't know.
I've
never heard of Nathan's.
That's the original Coney Island hot dog stand.
Not out of Detroit.
Is this still there?
Detroit dogs.
Is it Detroit?
Wait.
Where does
Coney Island is in Brooklyn, New York.
So Brooklyn,
and every year they do the hot dog eating contest at Nathan's because that's the original place for the hot dogs.
Okay, so
now I mentioned Coney Island out of Detroit because I'm originally from Michigan. But I always go down to Detroit to get to Coney Islands. And I went to school in an urban college that was in downtown. So I always craved the Coney Island hot dogs. And they have a new shipping method where you can ship a whole kit to anywhere in the world. And we order it all the time. Anyways.
Seriously, wait a minute. I want a corn dog, though, because I don't even eat meat, but I want a corn dog right now.
You don't eat meat?
No, not really. Here and there we do. Like tomorrow, we're
Okay.
going on a hike with a friend who makes these amazing killer sandwiches with Havarti cheese and chicken breast or whatever.
But normally,
and it's like amazing. And then we eat shortbread and drink champagne after our hike in a park. And we're doing a national park unit tomorrow that we've never been to tomorrow. So we're excited. It's on the Juan Batista de Anza National Historic Trail, and it's one of the newest sites. It's a lagoon wetlands area, and it's amazing. And we haven't been there yet. I'm saying it's amazing. I've looked it online. I'm like, I'm going to see some ducks tomorrow. And I'm going to drink some champagne, and I get to eat chicken tomorrow. So I'm a happy girl. But no, I don't eat that much meat, but neither of us do. But we'll eat John's burritos no matter what he puts in them. But no, but to me, I like hot dogs. I just don't eat them that often. But like, I want a corn dog now, and I want mustard. Like, you just said this, now I want that. I have a craving. Okay. So you're eating these, but okay, are you drinking lemonade? What's going on? Like,
no, I'm drinking.
Yeah.
We're drinking wine.
Beer. Wine. Oh, awesome. Okay, I'm with you there. I'll eat hot dogs and wine, but I'm not invited because this is Pink Floyd. Okay,
we're drinking white wine because I don't want to stain my teeth.
Oh, come on.
Oh, goodness.
God.
Now I can tell you just now how old you are. Because
Wait a minute.
Oh man, don't ever look at our teeth.
When you get a few years older, you're like, okay, it's about the wine. It wasn't my fault.
No.
And then you drink
That's it. That's it. It becomes your excuse. But anyway, okay.
because then I would have to dump a lot of money in my mouth to get them back the way I want them.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's all about the teeth. Okay,
well,
so everybody, you don't need a flashlight when you go to Pompeii.
About the teeth. I just don't want to go backwards. Okay,
no, you don't go. No.
Wow, this is a conversation. So Pompeii with Pink Floyd, that sounds like a band album right there.
Really white teeth.
White teeth, white wine, and Coney Island hot dogs. Okay, that's awesome.
You clearly have to edit the white teeth part out of the audio, right?
No, this ain't getting edited ever. There's no such thing as editing around here because it's about being real. It's cool.
Okay.
I think it's cool, but I'm going to have red wine right after this because I just want to. And I'm going to take a photo of my teeth and put it up on Twitter and say, look at
older,
this.
So we can.
Yeah.
I prefer red wine, but I just couldn't deal with the results on my mouth with it. So I've always learned to drink white.
I'm going to email you a solution for that.
Okay. Yeah, Nancy knows.
Yeah, I know.
All right, guys. I really appreciate Nancy and I both appreciate you. Oh, your song.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that's right, because I thought you had Pink Floyd. I knew I was missing something. I got stuck in the wine and the teeth. Okay, so what are you singing?
Red wine.
You got stuck in the wine and teeth. All right, I'm going to stick with the same music genre, and I'm going to go with my karaoke song's going to be Fool in the Rain.
Fool in the Rain. Okay.
Oh.
What's up?
Okay.
Yeah, there you go, John.
See?
John knew it.
They know.
That's right. I'm with you.
See?
Did you hear what John said?
Fool in the
Lisa?
Rain. Me?
Lisa? Yeah. Did you hear that?
Do I know the Who? I know the Who.
No, John guessed the group name of the song.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't.
But I Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. Then I do know, and I'm just stupid right now.
You know.
No, I do know. I'm just stupid. No, I am.
Fool in the Rain by Led Zeppelin. That's my karaoke song.
I know, but this is it. Now we have gone backwards now. This conversation, we started so good, but now I don't know the song, but I do. I know Led Zeppelin, and I know Pink Floyd, and I know these bands, but then, dude, I don't know right now, because guess what? I'm going to have a glass of red wine, and then it will wash all of that away.
We're going to look at our teeth and go, he was right.
I know.
See, I knew I would shake things up with that.
I know, but I do Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin still is one of the best ever because they just had that anyway. I don't want to go into music.
Freedom.
Okay.
No, you know why they're the best ever? They're the best ever because they were the only music group ever in music, even to this day, that was successfully able to mix blues, rock. I mean, they were the only group able to mix sound from every music genres that were available.
Oh my God! You need to read Backstage Pass by
they were because they would listen to everybody else telling them you can't do it.
No, you've got to read Backstage Pass.
There's no group to this day that could ever duplicate what Led Zeppelin able to do with their music. I mean, it's just only one group I think, in my opinion, came close, and that was the Black Crowes.
And now they're dude, it's so sad. It's so sad.
Is that the Murder She Said song?
No. And it's so sad. Dude, Chris. But he's still doing stuff now, but it's different. No, that you're in a different place, Nancy.
Okay.
No, but anyway, the music is a big deal when you're road tripping. Sandra, you listen to music as you road trip? Because I know you do this all the time. You do.
Yes.
Do you make? How do you do it? Does anybody make a mixtape anymore? Do any of us even have cars that do it? Do you do like a iTunes stuff? No one does it.
I stream through Apple Music.
Oh, I see. I do a mixed playlist that I'll play.
Okay, John, what do you do?
I have a thumb drive that has a lot of music on it, or just whatever the kids pick these days. So it's a lot of Imagine Dragons, which is okay as long as it's not Taylor. It's not Taylor Swift anymore. So Imagine Dragons is reasonable.
Okay, so before each of you go, I do want to touch on this, which is unique. Each of you are connected in this one way, other than national parks and traveling to them and giving people an insight of what our national park system is, which you do through your photography. Everybody has a different thing. And Sandra, what you're doing at nationalparkpatchlady.com and on your social media, I was going to give everybody's Instagrams and Twitters and Facebooks, but all of you have a big long list, but I want everyone to just go to your website, nationalparkpatchlady.com for Sandra. You're giving people an insight to travel, of how to, and your experiences, but all of you have an affiliate that you're working with. And for you, Sandra, you're working with Olympus. Am I right with that?
I am. I was just named an Olympus Superfan Ambassador. So I shoot with Olympus cameras, and I love them. And so I now travel to camera shops and talk about travel photography and Olympus cameras, and I'm honored to be working with them. They're a great company.
Awesome. One tip, one photo tip from you for that.
One photo tip. So with my Olympus cameras, they have a setting called Live Composite, which allows you to do long exposures, but you can see the photo building on the back of the camera, which I love to use at night for obviously star trails. But two things that I really love to use it for is when I'm photographing lightning, because you can set it up so you know the lightning's coming. You click the button, you can capture the lightning and stop it when you see it populate on the back of your screen. And I also love to use it when I put I also use it and I put a couple neutral density filters on and use it for waterfalls. And so it is my favorite part of shooting is using the Live Composite on Olympus cameras.
That's really cool. We're in monsoon season, coming up soon here, and that's awesome for lightning and waterfalls out here.
And lightning's hard to capture, and so this gives you it's still in camera, so it's not cheating, but it really allows you to create some cool concepts.
Awesome.
I have a tip for Lisa. First, it's called Get Down and take your lens caps off.
Oh yeah, there's times where I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but anyway, that
Get
happens.
Dirty.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the red wine and the dirty teeth, from the night before. John and Otis have a similar thing going on. Subaru, apparently. Okay, so what's going on with Subarus? Because Toyota used to be the thing going out there, and and Jeep. But it looks like everyone. I have a friend, or Nancy, I have a friend going out and living in Oregon in an area, and she goes, well, apparently we need to have a Subaru here for four-wheel drive, and I can still kind of have a car and do all this stuff. And I'm like, what? And I look at both of your Instagram accounts and different Instagram accounts, and something's going on with Subaru. What's going on, John? Because I know about Hot Lips and how Hot Lips said, we're not working halfway through. Is that when you turn to Subaru? What's going on with Subaru?
Yeah, Hot Lips is out in the pasture right now. Hot Lips gets used for soccer Saturdays and things like that. But yeah, now we have Subi Ruby. I even have an Instagram for Subi Ruby. And I met some people from Subaru during one of the Yosemite events for the 100-year anniversary of the National Park Service, and I was able to listen to a presentation by Subaru about how they give back to the national parks, how they make donations with every purchase to certain charities. Great message. It was just really wonderful. So I went out and I actually bought a Subaru at the beginning of last year, and I sent a letter to the people who I met, and they were so excited to receive the letter. They asked me if I wanted to consider being an ambassador for Subaru, and now I share some posts on social media. I get to take a lot of cool photos with Subi Ruby on our road trips.
Ruby and your ruby red heels that go click, click through the park.
That's right. And, so I get to represent Subaru. And just last week, my father actually just bought a new Subaru.
Check it out.
Recommendation. So, yeah, it was fun.
Otis, what about you, the Subaru? I mean, is this something that do you fly, drive, because you go to different parks? I mean, how does that work for you?
Oh, well, sorry.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, in California, especially in the snow, I've never driven a vehicle that handles the snow better than this car. So I'm amazed by it.
Wow.
Yep. I'm just going to say, Ruby.
Listen, I know about going down hills in my Toyota Corolla sideways in the snowstorm, up and down. But anyway, and it didn't work, but it was fun.
Can I just say, Ruby, don't take your love to town.
Oh, stop. She's in the music mode now. Okay, but Otis, how did you get started with Subaru? Because this is interesting because it's going to happen with us. We're going to have to change cars on our national park travel. So I'm actually really curious.
The house is my wife, our family. We've been Subaru owners. I mean, right now we have Outback, a new Outback, and a new Crosstrek, 2017 and 2016. We've had Subaru. How I got involved, it's kind of tiered. I'm trying to make this a short story because when I was approached by several other types of products in recent months, and so through our local dealership, they knew what I did for a living, and they always had art and outdoors. A Subaru. If you go to a Subaru dealership, I think for the most part, all of them try to feed off that outdoors nature park look within their dealerships. So when I approached them about my art in their dealerships, that's when the opportunity arose for the ambassador program. And because of that, I got into the ambassador program, and that's launched a whole nother avenue. I mean, because I've gotten tons of Subaru gear and items that I use at my art shows to present along with my imagery. So it kind of gives that balance of that Subaru outdoors and my outdoor imagery. So I've kind of coupled it up. And this has been going on for about a year. So I'm totally ecstatic because for a long time I vowed I would never push a product. I'm not interested in pushing a product. There's certain things I buy for a certain reason. And whether you want to give it to me for free or half off, I'm not really interested. But the Subaru thing has been pleasant because I totally stand for what they represent. And the imagery and the product. The product's great. I mean, John mentioned about the snow driving. The first time I drove a Subaru in the snow, it was like, okay, now this is different. And I grew up in the Midwest, so I mean, it was different. I mean, and so I even if the Subaru ambassador thing wasn't there, we would still have our Subarus. The ambassador program has only been a blessing for me because of what I do and how I've leveraged it in the recent 12, 13 months.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's been a blessing.
So like awesome. Mulva, Cleopatra Doppelganger, our little Toyota Rev, may have to change. Like when we get to her, like we can't talk about that now. She'll hear. But down the road, we may have to move, you know. So I'm just saying. So it's good. It's interesting for us. Like I never thought of a Subaru for outdoors. So
well, I think Subaru in the last 2-3 years, they've really made a push with the social media the way it is, to bring on ambassadors in this ambassador program. A lot of people, I don't. There's not a lot of people that are in Subaru ambassadors, but there's a good some, and they all have gotten into the program in certain ways, and all of the Subaru ambassadors leverage it in different ways. But we all have the same common thread, is that we're sold. We're Subaru lovers from the brand and from the product. And so everybody leverages it differently, and everybody has gotten into the program differently. There's Subaru ambassadors I've met at events that I put on that are just soccer moms, and they're a Subaru ambassador. And that's
amazing.
That's what Subaru has done. They've allowed that.
Everybody, we've got to get running. We're going to play some music. We've got some music from Wally Lawder here in Tucson, Arizona. We're going to play Loving the Land, so you can go to wallylawder.com. We're also going to play some National Parks Hollywood history by Steve Schenickert. You can find him in our expert department on blendradioandtv.com. Of course, if you go to bigblendradio.com, you'll see all of our shows listed upcoming. We air Sunday through Friday. You'll see the list there. I want to give a big thanks to the National Parks Arts Foundation for sponsoring today's show. You can go to nationalparksartsfoundation.org. Thank you, all of you, for joining us for this amazing conversation. It was longer than we thought, but it was awesome. So, really everyone, Sandra, is it Ramos, or am I saying it right? I want to make sure I say
Ramos. It's good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone. NationalParkPatchLady.com. She's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. John DeGrazio, go to yexplore.com, the letter yexplore.com. Thank you so much, John. It's just amazing to have you back, and such a good conversation, too. Thank you. And also, Otis. Thank you for joining us, Otis.
Yep.
Everyone, again, you can go to Otis. What is your website for everyone to know?
www.lightscapes.com, LIGHTSCAP3S.com.
Thank you, everybody. Again, here it is, Loving the Land by WallyLawder.com, and also the National Parks Hollywood History segment by Steve Schenickert. Thank you all for joining us.
When people think of national parks, movies are not usually the first thing that comes to mind. The national parks are not just providing a home for wildlife, but they are also providing gorgeous locations for Hollywood to use when shooting its movies. Let this list of 5 movie classics shot on National Park Service land be your gateway into the wider world of film, camping, and the discoveries of the outdoors. 1940s, The Grapes of Wrath. This John Steinbeck classic novel turned film about the Dust Bowl exodus utilizes the petrified forest to recreate a journey many have taken through Arizona. The park has some great views and plenty of finds to keep paleontologists, archaeologists, and other ists busy for a long time. But the main attraction is really all the petrified wood, which is some worldly mix of logs and stone. North by Northwest, 1959. The National Memorial Mount Rushmore serves as a pivotal setting for this Alfred Hitchcock adventure. It is not difficult to imagine Cary Grant running from spies in a death-to-death chase to freedom across this park. Just make sure you imagine it and do not act it out. Hitchcock himself ran into controversy for his action sequences. 1960 Spartacus. Death Valley National Park has served as a location for multiple films. In Spartacus, the first sequence in the quarries was filmed in the Nevada park. While it would be zero fun to reenact the labor-intensive scenes, taking advantage of the hiking, biking, and camping opportunities available in this 3 million-acre park could lead to a memorable vacation that becomes a family classic. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1969. For this Western, Butch Cassidy, Paul Newman, and the Sundance Kid, Robert Redford, the ultimate criminals on the run, took advantage of the scenery in Utah's Zion National Park. Once you were there, you will want to stay for the mind-blowing scenery. Besides the multitude of trails to lead you around the sandstone, there are many naturally occurring arches that are a wonder to behold in person. Concluding with 1987's The Quick and the Dead, there were parts of the film shot in Arizona's Wupatki National Monument. The land was originally home to the predecessors of the Hopi and Zuni people, and has since been excavated and studied by archaeologists. The pueblos and canyons make for a beautiful landscape, and it is easy to see why location scouts chose Wupatki as a backdrop for this western. The film was also shot in the nearby Coconino National Forest and Kaibab National Forest. I am Steve Schenickert, and this is Hollywood History as I recall it.
On my back porch, my guitar in my hands, and I'm looking at the afternoon, I'm looking at the land. It's got that honey-colored light, golden rose reflecting from the sun. Steps outside and asks me, what are you doing, hon? And I'm loving the land. I'm just loving the land. I'm loving the land. I'm just loving the land. Got an angel in my corner, must have a Buddha at my side. And if I had any worries, I've left them all behind. Maybe it's the time of day, maybe it's the light. Blame it on the air I'm breathing, but I couldn't feel more right. And I'm loving the land. I'm just loving the land. I'm loving the land. I'm just loving the land. On a simple corner lot in a humble town, waiting for the sun to go down, down. Well, when this land was made, it was made from near and far. Molecules and galaxies and mystery and bits of stars. And I'm just letting go like a leaf to the wind. I'm floating on a feeling, I'm just giving in. And I'm loving the land. I'm just loving the land. I'm loving the land. I'm just loving the land. This land is your land, my land. From California to New York to the Fiji Islands. I'm loving the land. I'm just loving the land.